Jacksonville Jaguar fans are lamenting the fact that the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are getting job interviews. I'll tell you why I understand that, but you shouldn't worry here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. It is also what we call crossover Thursdays here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Obviously, the Jaguars aren't playing a game, but it is still crossover Thursdays presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Shout out to the everydayers for joining us here on the Locked On Podcast Network, which is the #1 sports podcast network. We always thank you for making us your first listen, and we appreciate you joining us because it's your team every day. Today is one of those days that is considered every day. I'm going to tell you why I trust this organization to do the right things moving forward. It's going to be real simple because you guys have seen it already. The Jags are equipped to deal with it. What is it? It is the fact that attrition comes with success in your coaching staff. Sometimes we only think of players who leave because they win and demand big contracts, but coaches also leave because of team success, and that's where we are going to begin and park this thing right here today. Rumors are, not even rumors, it's confirmed, that offensive coordinator Grant Udinsky is going to or has or will interview for the head coaching job in Cleveland. And the fans are, okay, we don't want to lose him, but we do have an offensive coach as the head coach, and it is his offense, which is exactly what everyone was screaming for in the offseason. But there's a flip side to it. You might lose your defensive coordinator because Anthony Campanile interview with the Miami Dolphins for their head coach, and I'm going to tell you something. If I had to guess, I would say there's a better shot at him going there than Grant Udinsky going to Cleveland, or it could be both. But whether or not you're deciding which one is worse, let me really start with Campanile, because that's the one where that's the side of the ball where you might think losing him means you lose everything that he did, and that's where I want to say I disagree a little bit, but I understand why people think that. The Jaguars have not had very much success. And when you finally get success, you want it to sustain, and you want continuity, and fans, I get it. You don't want things flipping and switching too much, especially because we haven't won it yet. I'm going to give you an example of an organization that has happened to a lot. I'm not going to use the Rams because the Rams actually did get one championship during Sean McVay's tenure that is still going on. I'm going to point right to the San Francisco 49ers, who, by the way, are still alive in the last of eight in the playoffs in the NFC. Kyle Shanahan has lost staff member after staff member after staff member. He's an offensive-minded coach. It is his offense. It's always going to run the way he wants it to run. So when he loses the Mike McDaniels of the world and the Clint Kubiaks or whoever of the world, I think there's another Kubiak out there that people are now wanting to get. I get it. In fact, everybody I just mentioned came from Kyle Shanahan's pops. Mike Shanahan, they came from his tree. Oh, you can look back at the Washington franchise. They're the Commanders now, but back then when Mike Shanahan, they were called something else. They had Kyle Shanahan, they had McVay, they had LaFleur, they had all of these coaches from around. There's probably 2 or 3 more that I'm missing out on, but no one fretted about that because, well, they all came from the offensive side of the ball. Here's the deal, man. Listen, I get it. The 49ers haven't won anything, and people are saying that maybe had they kept all of those guys on staff, they could have at least gotten them a championship. That could probably be true. But I can tell you what, no team has ever won a title being a copycat. Liam Cohen is not a copycat of Sean McVay. There's a lot of Sean McVay in him. Early in the year when we started this, during the preseason, I asked him, I said, Coach, how do you People think that it's always about your last stop, whether this is going to be like it was in Tampa, whether it was going to be like it was in LA. You know what he said? He appreciated all those guys. And I'm going to paraphrase him. He said, but we got to make this our own. There you go, right there. That is the key. They're going to make it their own. Just yesterday, James Gladstone talked about their scheme evolving defensively, which means it's not going to look the same next year. So the mistake that a lot of teams make, especially bad organizations, and the Jaguars have been one of them before for a very long time, is they go and cherry pick a guy and think that they could bring that entire thing and that entire culture to a new team just based on one or maybe two people. Not true. They just said yesterday that next year will not look like this year. It'll be a totally different team, right? And that team has to have its own identity. So if next year's team won't look anything like this year's team, and they'll primarily bring back 80% of the roster and probably 85% of the coaching staff, how would you expect a whole nother organization to just come get one guy and all of a sudden that organization turns into the Jaguars? It's not going to happen. Everyone is always going to have fluid movement when it comes to trying to, it's never finished. You never arrive, right? So from that thinking, I put you into this mindset. Instead of looking at Anthony Campanile as taking and leaving everything, I think the culture of an organization, a great organization, and I have used this example with Nick Saban. I said every time Nick Saban went and got a coach, he didn't just go get that coach to come in and keep the wheel moving. He got a coach that he respects, that comes from a tree, that does something that he wanted to add into his pot of gumbo that was Alabama. And it was always evolving. Lane Kiffin wasn't anything like the coaches before him. Steve Sarkisian wasn't anything like Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin wasn't anything like Jim McElwain. It just did not happen that way. Everyone who came in, there was a big overall idea, a culture of how we want to play. How do we want to get it done? When they come in and they leave, they actually leave a part of that on that tree. So that's why that thing kept growing and branching out, because it had all of these different layers to it. Anthony Campanile was that to Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen figured out how he wanted to play, and he knew somebody who could play the way he wanted to play. Pause right there, because in the second segment, you're going to understand the significance of that. But what I'm saying to you is this. They could promote from within. They could go get somebody from that same tree. They could go get someone from another tree that is very, very similar to that. Just remember this. I am not discounting the importance of Anthony Campanile. I think he's great. I thought he was great from the very beginning. But don't y'all sit here and act like you can't live without something you didn't even know existed 10 months ago when Anthony Campanile was the linebackers coach for the Green Bay Packers. There's a lot of layers to that. There's a lot of Flores in there. There's a lot of Vic Fangio in there, guys that he coached under or coached with. There's a lot of that, all of that. Remember, they were trying to get Durante Jones, like they interviewed him for the defense coordinator job. He's the pass game coordinator for Brian Flores, right? They talked to Patrick Graham as the defensive coordinator, who was out there with the Raiders. He might still be available. And you think about all of those coaches, they have something in common. They're great communicators and they're great teachers, and they kind of play the same aggressive style. So that does not mean he won't be missed if he does decide to leave. That doesn't mean that, oh my God, we got to start completely over. No, it doesn't mean that one bit. I love Camp just like everybody else. And sure, it's better that he stays than if he leaves, right? But it also doesn't mean that everything's going to fall apart if he goes away. People saying that y'all simplifying this. It's not easy to replace him. No, it's not easy to replace him, because it's just not. Unless you're Liam Cohen and you're the guy that went and got him in the first place, when probably half the people who saw you go get a position coach to be your coordinator and you are a first-time head coach sat there and thumbed at it like, oh, God, what are they doing? First-time coach, first-time GM, first-time, where are the grown people? Yeah. Well, the grown people sure ain't the ones sitting out there crying, acting like he can't be replaced, especially when you just watch somebody do it. I'll tell you, that's the part I want to get to Segment number 2 here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think, man, there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. It's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this year where opportunity or no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnfl. That's QUO.com/lockedonnfl. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Right, man, I know all of y'all think you can be a GM. How many of y'all think you can actually be a franchise quarterback while being a GM? Well, now you can. Here's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate Quarterback, Football Legend. In this game, you step up into the cleats of a #1 draft pick, quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. This is the #1 quarterback career mode game on the mobile app store, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. Sign contracts, train, and upgrade yourself, build chemistry, and involve your teammates. Give input to your GM on roster moves, play the actual games in 2D, and rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. You'll deal with the ups and downs of a career quarterback, and from rookie nerves to playoffs drama, and every choice shapes your journey. The Ultimate QB is where it's at, man. So look, just head over to ultimate-qb.com. It's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. We've got something special for you guys. Use the promo code Locked On, all caps, in the game store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB, football legend, QB1, it's your legacy. Rolling along here on Locked On Jaguars, I am Tony Wiggins, the host, and we are moving along talking about the prospect of losing Anthony Campanile and Grant Udinsky to job interviews. I'm going to say this. I understand the fans. I get it. We got nice things. We want to keep them. And I get that most of the things on social media I'm seeing are tongue-in-cheek, right? Just be careful. What do I mean by being careful? You never want to become what you despise. Y'all despise the way the Tampa Bay fans treated Liam Cohen when he got the job here, calling that man, they call that man everything except anything good, right? Sleazy and all that. Y'all been around Liam. That man ain't got a sleazy bone in his body, man. He's conscientious. He's honest. All of these things, right? There was just so much talk about all of these guys being the first time this and first time that. You would have to think that they got lucky with their choices of GM, head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. You would think they got lucky with the way that people are out here talking. And the folks that are panicking, which, once again, I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying, come on, man, just sit and think about it for a minute. This is not a Jay-Z situation where he says, I heard people saying they made Hov say, okay, so make another Hov. That's not what this is. But what it is what makes you so sure? And I'm not certain, and I'm not telling you there won't be differences. And I won't, because if I say that, it means, well, anybody can be Camp. No, they can't be. Anybody can be Udinsky. No, they can't be. But what if I told you that the 49ers, who I mentioned before, have guys like Robert Saleh? Okay, Saleh left, right? They hired Steve Wilkes. They fired Steve Wilkes, even though they went to the Super Bowl. Saleh got fired. They brought Saleh back. We're missing something. There was somebody else in that tree. His name is DeMeco Ryans, and they have one of the two best defenses in the league. You see, the thing about teams like that, like the Shanahan running backs and all of these things, folks sit here and say, man, we got to replace this guy. You know, some people are just really good at identifying the people who are in alignment with what they want. There's my word again, alignment. When you have alignment, the culture becomes the thing. People that can identify folks that understand how they want things implemented and still be able to bring people in. Give you another example. The Rams, the one we keep talking about. They're the Super Bowl favorites in the NFC, according to a lot of people. If they're not, they're one of the most consistent franchises in the National Football League, even though they've let go Aaron Donald. They've let go Jalen Ramsey. Guys, well, Aaron Donald retired. They've moved on from people who helped them win. They moved on from Cooper Kupp. They've lost coaches. We got a few of them here, right? And you're sitting there thinking like, how are we going to keep going? But yet and still, they just keep going. I don't think it's luck that Liam Cohen hit it a home run out of the box. People said he was too inexperienced to get a job. And now folks are shivering because he lost the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator. How about this? How about you just bank on the fact that if they did it once, they can do it again? Now, it doesn't mean they're going to win 13 games. And it doesn't mean if they have to replace these guys that there won't be some differences or some hiccups. But I'll give you something else to be even more happy or optimistic about. They won 13 games. The Jaguars led the league in run defense, and nobody wants to get rid of Anthony Campanile, right? Okay, what tradition did Anthony Campanile follow when he got here, following up Ryan Nielsen? Don't worry, I'll wait for you to just tell me. And like I said, this isn't to diminish him or to diminish people that are wary of this. It just goes to show you have to have confidence in the culture of the team that you follow once they give you a reason to have confidence in it. And that's exactly what the Jacksonville Jaguars have done in 1 year. One. You can look at Philadelphia as another example. Sirianni got the job. They got bounced out of the playoffs. Folks were saying, man, you got to fire your offense coordinator. So they got rid of Anthony Johnson. I think that's his name. Brian Johnson. They get Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore comes in. He elevates him, and they win the Super Bowl. Kellen Moore gets a job. Now their offense goes right back down. I'm going to tell you what. That's not a personnel problem. It's not necessarily a that guy can't coach problem. What it is, and I'm talking about the offensive coordinator. What it is they have a culture issue when it comes to their head coach. You know why I know? Because those players don't respect them the way they're supposed to. There's some people that probably believe that Kellen Moore should have actually been the head coach. They should have fired Sirianni and kept Kellen Moore. They probably really believe that now because the Philadelphia offense was so terrible this year. You would have to think that Liam Cohen is Nick Sirianni in order to not at least have a little bit of faith that if he just did it in 1 year, he can do it again. He hit all the right buttons that he's not. I don't think he's sitting there trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do now? No, I think coaches like that knew what they were going to do the minute they got the job. And I think they're 2 and 3 steps ahead of everybody else. I know we believe a lot of things are going to happen that we ain't even seen yet, but I can tell you what, I'm really going to believe in something that I just witnessed. I just witnessed dude come in here with his staff and change Trevor Lawrence. I witnessed them go make trades. I've witnessed them win 13 games. I've witnessed them totally change the culture and the expectations of fans that have 2 decades or almost 3 decades worth of inconsistent and mostly consistent misery. Why would I worry and be concerned instead of just giving those guys a chance to do exactly what I just witnessed them do in the last 10 months? That's all I'm saying, man. Just vibe. Just vibe. I'm not saying Camp isn't valuable. Of course he is. But I'm not going to worry about something that comes with success because this is the cost of it. Tell you more in just a second here. Third and final segment on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Home Chef. And nobody knows how important it is to get good quality meals like me as the new year gets going. A lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner is a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference. That's where Home Chef comes in. My man, Chris Carter, who does the show with me on Locked On NFL on Thursday, man, he works as hard as anybody. And I know sometimes he has to just grab and go. It's best to do it with good meals.
You're right.
Yeah, I know it. I know I'm right, Chris. All right, meals come ready to fit your schedule. 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or quick lunches. Over 30 weekly options, including family-sized meals and different dietary choices. Recipes are simple but feel elevated, even restaurant quality with dishes co-created by chefs like Gordon Ramsay. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/locked-on. That's homechef, one word, .com/locked-on for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. I am not concerned about the Jacksonville Jaguars being able to replace coaches, although you never want to miss coaches and continuity is important and all of that. They didn't have any continuity in a coaching staff when they won 13 games this year. So I can't make myself worry about something that actually comes with success. If these problems didn't exist, it would be because the Jaguars were 9-8 again. It would be because there's uncertainty. It would be because I think good teams that hire coaches don't just hire coaches, they hire culture. They hire people that have been places where they had firsthand knowledge and actually had a hand in creating something. So now you bring that and the things that they've learned to a new situation, right? And so I think the Jaguars, while they may lose coaches, and if they continue to lose coaches, you know what that means? That means they're a good team. If they can't afford Devin Lloyd anymore based on the fact that other teams will try to outbid them, and maybe they love him as a player, but they don't feel like they need to hit that number, that comes with the territory because the kid was an all-pro. It's just the way it is, man. I can't explain that anymore to you, right? But I will tell you that I trust the organization. One thing I'll never do, I meant to touch on this earlier, is that I'll never become what I despise. I'll never sit here, even in a joking way, and say, I might do it in the division. And just sit here and send tweets saying that Udinsky and them, he ain't really had that big of a deal, and he's not that, and Camp ain't really that good. Just as a joke, I get it, but I can't do that. You know why? Because Grant Udinsky and Anthony Campanile and all other coaches, they've had a dream their entire life of being an NFL head coach. Why would I say or do anything to stop them from doing it? Like people in Tampa. Why? Somebody please tell me, why on earth would I want to be like anybody that you guys have been arguing with forever? Why would I want to be like anybody that congratulated the Buffalo Bills and they're a Tampa Bay Buck fan for knocking that quote unquote sleazy coach out of the play? I don't even want to even be associated with nothing like that. So even though it's tongue in cheek and it's in a very, very jokey way, that's not the way that this works. If somebody ain't coming for your players or your coaches, that's when you have a problem. I'm not going to sit here and cry about something that Liam Cohen has shown me he can do. Maybe that's their superpower. Maybe they get it just the same way they get it with players. They get it with coaches also, and they understand. I would lend myself to believe that once they have changed this thing around, and I know we have a very, very small sample size, but it feels like it's on the right path. And culture to me is tied to alignment, which is why Trent Baalke can draft players, but the team can't win with players he drafts, along with the coaches that he decides, because something is broken. Not that he doesn't deserve a job to be sitting here scouting and picking players. It's more to it than that. That's why we wanted more people in the organization from top to bottom, because he was doing too much, in my opinion. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong, but the results say I'm probably not. So I trust them. One of the things I trust them about is their ability to communicate. And this is why people, if somebody said, who cares that they communicate and that they're transparent with the media? I do. You know why? Because I don't think good communication is something you can turn on and off. I don't think people that communicate openly with the media in an incorrect way, in my opinion, and send bad messaging to a fan base, I don't think folks are just turning it off and then behind the scenes they turn it on and obviously they then can do it the correct way. I think whatever you see them doing in public when they're behind a microphone, whether it's not being behind a microphone enough or being in front of a microphone and sounding real, get off my lawn, like you wouldn't understand it if I explained it to you, or nobody here is more qualified than all of that stuff. Doesn't that tell you that that's also going on behind the scenes when it comes to being aligned and making sure you put a product on the field that this fan base in this city and all of us in Jacksonville can be proud of? It tells that to me. It tells me that because communication and transparency, they run hand in hand. I don't mean sitting out here telling us who you're going to draft. I don't mean to tell me who you're going to sign. And James Gladstone ain't doing that. Liam Cohen, they're not doing that. But they are telling you that they're talking about their process, not about actually what it is that they do. When people are not transparent about their process, that means to me that they feel vulnerable about it because they're worried that you're going to come back and use it against them. So that means scared money don't make no money. I'll tell you what I'm going to do to a certain extent, and there ain't nothing the opponents are going to do about it. Jags say, we ain't going to the Senior Bowl. We're going to do it another way. That's the way that we do it. We feel like we can do it in another way and get away. It is amazing to me that sometimes people don't connect these dots, right? This is now a destination place in terms of coaching as well. Once coaches start getting jobs coming through here, what do you think other coaches are going to do? Be careful what you ask for, and when you get it, complaining about it. You got an offensive-minded coach who's a play caller, right? That's what you wanted. Didn't want the offense to be going away. Well, Liam Cohen ain't going nowhere. And by the way, people thought he was the wrong coach because he was inexperienced. See how this works? Don't try to limit these dudes, man. I love Camp, love Greg Udinsky. But if we're going to sit here and woe is me as if this dude can't go and pick another coach, then what are we doing? Why are we even playing the game? Why are we even paying attention to it? How many guys went through Alabama and then they leave and then Alabama just kept being Alabama? And those guys had success other places. That doesn't mean they weren't good coaches. It just means, yeah, they were good coaches. They got jobs. They're doing something well somewhere else. But guess what? We're going to keep on ticking and we're going to keep doing what we're supposed to do. That's the name of the game, and it's how it works. So don't sit here and have a conniption or get a wedgie about something that really is a sign of success, but you're making it something to be mad about. Don't be mad. Just be around, man. Like on Locked On NFL. You're the everydayers. You'll always get this from me each and every day, but you can get a little more. Click down on the link or wherever you watch or listen and check out the Everydayers Club. You get audio versions of the show that's ad-free, plus access to our merch and a few other things, a lot of other perks. Make sure if you want a little bit more, you click in the Everydayers Club down in the description wherever you watch or listen. Love y'all, man. Y'all take care. It's the off season. We're going to get into some full-fledged draft stuff, free agency. I like to do free agency first before the draft, but I kind of got to look at both of them before I determine what it is I want to do. Case in point, James Gladstone said yesterday, one of the factors in them signing Cole Van Lanner was because they knew what was in free agency. See how it goes? You always got to do it. We're going to take a look at all of that coming up. Maybe start that a little bit tomorrow to get you through the weekend and then continue to do it for the rest of the off season. You guys know I'll be here all day, every day. I don't take y'all for granted. Thank y'all for spending a little bit more than 29 minutes with me today. Y'all stop worrying, man. Go Jags. Appreciate you joining us.